é a política, né? Quantas vezes a gente olha para todo esse rolê maluco que está acontecendo de corrupção e fala assim, caramba, quem precisa dessa galera? Eles tomaram de assalto. O que é isso? O que está rolando? Tipo assim, não existe mais partido, não existe mais nada. É uma grande tomada de assalto e a gente está na mão de todo mundo. E como seria bom não estar na mão dessa galera? Ao mesmo tempo, a gente tem um novo olhar de sociedade, que é a rede como um novo mindset de sociedade. E a soberania de redes descentralizadas. Então, como seria, por exemplo, se a gente não existissem políticos? Será que dá para a gente realmente, num futuro próximo, ter uma sociedade onde a gente não tenha, num futuro próximo, ter uma sociedade onde a gente não tenha políticos centralizadores decidindo pela gente, onde a gente teria algum formato de trabalho onde a gente pudesse, de democracia, não de trabalho, onde a gente pudesse diretamente estar a par da política, participando, sem ter necessariamente alguém que a gente não consegue mudar. Para isso, a gente vai chamar aqui o Santiago Ciri. Ele é fundador do Democracy Earth Foundation e ele vai falar exatamente sobre isso. Ele vai trazer muito uma plataforma que tem um código aberto que se chama Sovereign, né? E essa plataforma diz que se no futuro a gente não vai precisar mais dos políticos e a própria sociedade vai conseguir interagir e fazer as próprias decisões políticas. Então, com vocês, agora, nosso querido palestrante Santiago Ciri. É com você. Obrigada.
Obrigado. Bom dia. Eu não falo muito bem em portunhol, so I'm going to switch to English. I hope that's okay. I think it's better for me and for the talk to be understood in English. In case you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. So I'm one of the founders of Democracy.Earth. Democracy.Earth, that's our website. Is a foundation, a non-profit organization based in California and in New York, but our team is very distributed. Here on this day, around here is Paula Berman, who represents Democracy.Earth here in Brazil. So we'll be taking some questions also in beyond the aquarium after around 5 p.m. if you want to keep talking about how we're going to make politicians obsolete forever. So democracy is broken. This is something I assume around 5 p.m. if you want to keep talking about how we're going to make politicians obsolete forever. So, democracy is broken. This is something I assume everyone here in Brazil knows very well, but anyone anywhere pretty much. If you look at voter participation, even among developed nations in Europe and the US, voter participation has been going drastically down since the 1970s. Increased polarization and basically a shit show, reality show that we watch on TV every day makes the current system of governance seem older and older, especially when you contrast it to the internet. Our private information is concentrated in a handful of companies. Primarily Facebook, basically having the ability to impersonate theoretically 2 billion with a capital B humans is an incredible level of centralization and of Orwellian targeting of our data in order to increase their attention. America is fucked up. So, what we are doing, we're building a decentralized alternative using decentralized networks that are able to connect our ideas and scale our level of cooperation beyond the boundaries of nation states. We're building an open source project. The name of the software is called Sovereign. The entire source code is available on GitHub. It's entirely made on JavaScript. It can run on any kind of screen, any size. And since it operates on a blockchain, any successful technology that is able to operate with these kind of networks of trust, by definition, is a geopolitical disruption. Bitcoin, the first application run on a blockchain, is a geopolitical disruption of incredible magnitude and seems to be growing and growing on a daily basis. So any successful or interesting application run on top of blockchains is by definition competitive to the status quo and the establishment and nation-state governance. Because the whole purpose and the main attribute of blockchains is censorship resistance. Decentralization is the tactic for achieving that goal. And decentralization is what effectively is being rewarded by those who decide to invest or hold or earn in this kind of technology. So we are witnessing a major paradigm change. Secret weapon and open source software to make decisions, and from the other point of view, make an open source technology that had a political party as a secret weapon. So we built the Net Party and Democracy OS, the first iteration of the software that we're working on right now. We ran for elections in 2013 in Buenos Aires with a candidate that committed to always vote in Congress according to what citizens decide online. The party itself grew as a movement that made its decisions using online protocols and online voting. We understood also a lot of the risks and weaknesses as well as the opportunities and strengths regarding digital democracy. And in 2013, we got 1% of the votes in Buenos Aires, which was a very good result for a completely independent. In 2013, we got 1% of the votes in Buenos Aires, which was a very good result for a completely independent political party, into 18 different languages. So it was the beginning for us. But let me tell you something about politics. It's fucked up. In 2015, sorry for that stuff to translate. In 2015, we did not run for elections because I was personally asked to bribe a federal judge if we wanted to get the party inscribed in order to run. So when you start looking at the logic of how traditional power works and the incentives that it has in order to corrupt itself, it's a very nasty environment. And it's quite challenging in our countries, in the developing world, in Latin America, needless to say, in Argentina. So corruption is the enemy. And the problem with corruption is, in my perception, if we can really understand a systemic problem, not just point fingers at people, but a systemic problem, intermediation or distortion in the messaging is one of the causes that makes society less trusted, or less trusted among its members, or reduces trust among its members. This intermediation of political relations is desirable to reach a less corrupt culture. In 2015, frustrated because we weren't going to run for the elections, at the same time we got a call from Y Combinator. Y Combinator is a Silicon Valley accelerator, very successful one. They were among the angel investors of Airbnb and Dropbox and some of the big names, Reddit, one of my favorites. But YC actually accepted us as a non-profit. They supported our mission to work on the issue of democracy from a technological point of view, and we were able to create this non-profit in California, the Democracy Earth Foundation. So, democracy.earth, again, that's where you can find out more about what we're doing. We are an organization that is trying to grow beyond the institutional categories of the nation state and become an entity that is able to live and breathe and be governed by the very technology that we're building on blockchains and on decentralized networks, and reach this stage of what it takes to actually build a democracy that can reach global scale and be able to listen to the needs and the challenges that all of humanity that is facing. We have that technology to achieve that roadmap to the needs and the challenges that all of humanity that is facing. We have that technology to achieve that roadmap, thinking ahead, so we must better start researching and opening up this path as a collaborative, open effort where we get to find the best way for our ideas to collaborate. The reasons we can build this now is these two technological factors. Mobile devices are expected to reach 70% of the population by the end of the next decade. And the rise of decentralized networks, as I mentioned before, the censorship-resistant attributes of blockchain-based networks. When we look at the digital gap today, and in Latin America especially, when you look close at it, it's not a socioeconomical gap, but a generational gap. The ones that are, in fact, not as connected as people seem to be is our parents and our great-parents. They were not born or they were not raised with this kind of technology in their hands, so it's harder for them. But if we project into the future, the younger generations, almost in a city like Buenos Aires, 98% of under 30-year-olds access Facebook at least once a week. So this says a lot about the future that we're going. And political change is slow because it does take one generation to leave room for the next generation to take over. But we need to start planning ahead. We need to start creating. This says a lot about the future that we're going. And political change is slow because it does take one generation to leave room for the next generation to take over. But we need to start planning ahead. We need to start creating the technologies of trust that will enable us to improve the problems that we face with current governing systems. Because trying to change the system from within, in my own experience with the political party, it's way more probable that the system will try to change you first. And it has way more resources to achieve that. So I think that we should better think about building an alternative. Build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. How we're going to achieve this? One of the most important components beyond money on blockchain-based networks, environment in digital contexts, and we need to make transactions easier. That the utility attribute is also super relevant. So if we store our identities in a self-sovereign way on top of blockchains, we have gained a step towards this new kind of sovereignty that has to do with personal sovereignty. On personal sovereignty is this notion where we gain more rights. We gain more rights to have a concrete understanding of what we create and what we generate as living beings. We gain more rights. We gain more rights to have a concrete understanding of what we create and what we generate as living beings. The other element is voting. Voting is done with ballot boxes on national elections and on servers that tally elections. And the problem with centralization is that it points to the single point of failure that you will find on electoral systems anywhere, and that is usually connected to authority. The problem of authority is that authority can be bribed, can be corrupted. The interesting attribute that emerges out of blockchain-based technology is that the need for authority vanishes. So every voter has requiring any kind of special access. It decentralizes not only the ability to secure and protect the act of voting, but it also decentralizes the element of authority, the right to count the votes, the means to make the election secured. So it really brings, it democratizes an element that has never been democratized before. Who counts the votes? There was an expression that it was asked, like, electoral positions are picked from the top and then legitimized by society with a vote. We get to pick 1, 2, or 3 candidates, but they were originally picked at the top. It's a top-down representation model. with networks, we can start working on a bottom-up representation model, on a peer-to-peer representation model. And this is the notion of liquid democracy. In liquid democracy, in a direct democracy, you vote directly on issues. On a liquid democracy, you have the two options. You can either go representative democracy or you can go direct democracy. Direct democracy, you vote directly on issues. On a liquid democracy, you have the two options. You can either go representative democracy or you can go direct democracy. You can vote directly on the issues you care about, or you can delegate your voting capacity to someone you already know and trust. And this particular model of democracy, more liquid, more fluid, is best achievable under software form, and it's very hard to actually see. More liquid, more fluid, is best achievable under software form, and it's very hard to actually build on traditional forms. On September this year, we published a paper called The Social Smart Contract. If you visit our website, you can find it, you can download the PDF, and you can also access our GitHub repository that has all the paper there and actually contribute to it and argue about it and request even changes to the document. It's a living document that we keep on receiving contributions. It has been translated into Portuguese and Spanish, and it's being translated into Arabic, Mandarin, any kind of coding mechanism that nature seemed to have included in our in living systems. So, projecting forwards what the internet did in its first 25 years since the birth of the web in 1989, the internet definitely changed culture, telecommunication, connected the planet. But the next big challenge with the new chapter that has opened up with blockchains has to do about the internet transforming what we understand for institutions, disrupting the institutional layer. And that goes down to the core of ultimately what banks, what nation states actually mean as sovereign entities. And then there's our software. Our software is actually, we have an alpha release of the 1.0 version. We did it 3 weeks ago. You can test and use the software on vote.democracy.earth. It's still buggy, it's still slow, but we just did a first release and we have a small community of users that are software on vote.democracy.earth. It's still buggy, it's still slow.